Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 4. And thank you, Magda, so much for joining us today. I'm so happy to have you here. Magda is our special guest, and you're all the way in Toronto, right, Magda?
Yes, I'm in Toronto. It's so nice to join you, Carissa, and it's so nice to join the Real Talk crew. Elnora,
Yes.
I see you're already here. Hello, Elnora. It's awesome to
Yeah.
be here.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And for anyone who's been here in the past weeks, thank you again for hopping in and being a part of our Real Talks today. For anyone who's new, we're going to have a lot of fun. So before we get started, let me know where you are joining us from. It's always fun to see where our merchants are from because dropshipping really is a worldwide thing. So it's always cool to see where people are building their entrepreneurial dreams from, right?
Reina, Witty, it's so nice to see you. Everyone, this is a really private VIP community. So please do let us know where you're joining us from and if you have any questions today. But I see Reina and Witty.
Yeah, Witty, I remember you were here last week as well from the US. That's awesome. And in Canada, Eleonora. Smart hero, back again. Hello.
Wow,
Um,
awesome.
yeah, so like I mentioned, I'm all the way in Ottawa, Canada. Magda is in Toronto, and Magda is our special guest. And honestly, I'm so excited to have Magda here. She is the YouTube queen, so it's all a treat that you will be witnessing today for today's show. And in case you haven't seen Magda, she's on plenty of our other YouTube video channels. So if any of you do watch that, then you'll definitely recognize her from there.
Thank you so much, Krista. That's
Yeah.
so sweet of you. It is amazing to be here with all of you today. Topcom, George's from Serbia. We've got someone from Europe, so now we're global, which is great to see.
I love it. That's awesome. So before we hop into the topic of today, I'm just going to do a really quick outline of what we'll be chatting about. So for anyone who's brand new, Real Talks is a show where we talk about anything on how to optimize your side hustle. So whether it's marketing tips or suggestions on how to 10x your business, that's what we're going to be chatting about. And each week changes. So it's always going to be new, always fresh content. And if you want to share, Magda, a little bit about why you're worth listening to, I mean, like I said, you are the YouTube queen, so you don't need much of an introduction, but yeah, please do let us know.
Thank you so much, Krista. And hi, Riley, and hi, Dunk J. So I hope I pronounced that right. Yeah, I mean, so I run the Overload YouTube channel. So if anyone else watches our YouTube videos, you've probably seen me on there. And I have also just been working at Overload and Shopify for a long time. So I feel like I've seen a lot. I've seen it all. I've seen the bad, the good, the ugly, the millions. I've seen it all. I have a lot of things that I'm excited to share. And it is just so awesome to be here with all of you today.
Yeah. Plus, you've been able to talk to so many amazing entrepreneurs and hear their stories and suggestions. So, yeah, plenty of great info I'm sure we'll get from Magda. And for me, I've been working at both Shopify and Oberlo for just over 5 years now. So I've definitely seen a lot of different kinds of businesses, a lot of successful ones. Yeah, 5 years at a company like this is like 10 years or 15 years anywhere else. It's crazy. Yep. So that's a little bit about me. So let's go chat about the outline for today. So today's topic, if you noticed from the title, is called More is Less and Less is More. So which is really the whole idea behind that is the importance of starting small and then scaling when you're able to. So this topic might be a little bit more tailored towards those getting started, but I think you'll still get a lot of value even if you have been running a successful business for a while. And for those of you who have, please leave comments and share your tips and tricks as well too, because for those in the chat and who are a part of this, I'm sure they'll get lots of value from what you have to share as well. So we're going to chat about that. And then we're going to go into a hot tip section, which is like a marketing tip or a success story we found recently that we've been really loving. And then a toolbox section, which again is like a podcast or an app or whatever it might be, something else that we've been loving to share with you all. So like I said, please leave questions in the chat. Let us know anything you'd like to chat about. We'll try to address those as we go. And just a reminder that it is recorded. So don't stress. You can go back, watch this later. Just leave any questions and then watch the recording later if you feel like there's a lot going on. So
yeah. Or if you just want to watch it again.
Yeah.
I mean,
Cool. So, like I said, the topic is more is less and less is more. So, it's really about starting small with your business. So, I know all of us want to run a successful business, getting a steady flow of sales, making lots of money. I mean, that's a given, right? So, it's really easy sometimes to think that building this huge giant shop with a bunch of products is kind of the way to go and just go full in. But sometimes it's actually easier to start small and scale as you go. And so you don't feel overwhelmed along the way. So, again, that's just a little bit of an intro of the topic. So, before we hop into some examples of why it's important to start small, do you have anything you want to say about the topic too, Magda?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it seems really simple, but there's a lot of aspects of starting small that have so many benefits. And I think that when you're getting started, wherever you're at, it's easy to dream big, but to get to that point, it's probably best to start small. And yeah, I'm excited to go through all the reasons today because, you know, there's nothing wrong with being a dreamer, but sometimes being a dreamer and thinking too big might end up, costing you a lot of time and a lot of headache and unnecessary work. So we're just trying to keep it slim. We're trying to keep it, simple. And I think I'm really excited to go through all the categories of, marketing, store management, and just some other tips from starting slim that are really effective for you.
Yeah, and not to mention you can feel really overwhelmed if you do start big and then just quit because you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much work to do. So it's more about just like making the whole process easier for you too, so that you actually do stick with it and you do grow and you do scale.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've kind of broken it, like Magda said, into two categories of marketing and then store management, as well as another section, which we'll chat about any other little tips and tricks about starting small. So the first one I was going to mention is that under marketing is that starting small does allow you to get a good feel for your advertisements. And what I mean by that is you can see, are you getting a lot of clicks on your ad? Are you getting a lot of traffic or not? It's all really important information you can use to then tailor those ads. So if you are like just offering a few products on your store, you're a lot like it just allows you to build out better advertisements, test new things, test new markets, um, test new like customer segments and groups. So that would be my first tip.
Yeah, I think that it's really important because if you're marketing, you want to be able to tailor your ads depending on what customers are doing, how they're engaging with your store and with your products. And I think that if you start to see a group respond well, then it will be a lot easier for you to kind of tailor towards that. And to be honest, one thing that I think is really important is like if you're marketing and if you're testing multiple products, multiple different stores, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. And, a lot of times the best drop shippers will have one product and then test multiple angles. So
Mhm.
like, different sorts of audiences, whether they cater it more towards one audience or the other, different creatives, videos. That's a lot already just for one product. So it's definitely a little bit easier to start small.
Yeah. And not to mention, just thinking about this too, if you have a store with such a wide variety of products and you do find one or two products that work well with your target audience, those other 50 to 100 to 1,000 products may not align with your target audience. And it's like just so much harder to narrow down and brand your site if like you just have such a wide variety that you can't really target, even if you find uh, an audience that works well with an item. So, yeah, that's a great point. And the next one I was going to say is that, so I guess going back to what Magda said though, first, in week one, we talked about buyer needs and solving a problem. So yeah, if you do have that one product or two products that allows you to test all those different customer segments to see what works. But if you find that the product just isn't working with everything you're testing, it does allow you to shift and try new products. So, maybe you test out one or two items, it's really not working with all the segments you've tried. It's so much easier to then shift your store and try a different product offering than it is if you have like thousands of products added.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that's really important is that, also this allows you to test different platforms to see what works best, like Facebook or Instagram or Google. And when you test different products on different platforms. If you want to test more products on those platforms, that just multiplies your work. And now, Claudio, I see your question in the
Oh, yes.
chat. Anyone else, if you have questions, put them in the chat. We're both reading it. And if you have any questions, they're going to get answered. So Claudio, that's a great one. And just speaking of, speaking of the amount of products and keeping it slim, you would normally think that if you want to keep it slim, why not just do one product? Yes, you can definitely do a one product store, but I do want to mention that that's probably more suggested for someone who has a lot of drop shipping experience. And the reason is that if you have one product, you better be willing to put all your eggs in one basket and bet that that product is a winner, because you are kind of betting on just that product. Usually we suggest just a few products, but in a branded niche store or in a niche store. So that way you can test multiple products. So for example, instead of selling just one, building a whole store around one fish tank, it'd probably be better to start a store with 5 products for small dogs or something like that. So that way you can test multiple products, but it's to a similar audience. And that will also really help with your budget, because every time you test new products, it's either going to cost you money or time. And I don't think you really want to spend either of those if you don't have to. So this is probably the most effective way, and that what we've seen works the best for beginners. Now, everything works, but that's probably the easiest.
Yeah, and I think a good point about that too, if you do have like even say 5 products, it allows you to do upsells, right? So
Mhm.
you could say this item goes really well with this other item. So by having like even say 5, it really allows you to do that. And I saw this store, it was an interesting store selling hot tub lights. So you could like literally just take these lights and put them in your pool or in a hot tub or
Oh,
whatever, or even
that's
your
cool.
bathtub. And I thought it was neat because it was a very niche store, but they had different versions of it. So they had ones that would be like for a big pool, ones that you could just put in your bathtub, and it was like mini lights. So even if you do want to go niche with like the one product, maybe see if there's different variations of that that might tailor more towards different people's situations. So yeah, cool. I like that. And like George said as well too, you can start with 10 products in more of a general store and narrow it down. So something that people do in the very beginning is maybe they will choose those 10 products. They'll market and advertise that individual product listing in different ways and see what clicks. And then they'll just narrow down those 10 to maybe 1 or 2, right? Based on the type of traction they see. So that's a different approach as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But with a general store, I guess the only thing that you want to remember is a lot of times when people, you can have different types of general stores, and it's important to note that a general store doesn't just mean everything random under the sun that you're just putting into a store. And the reason being is because let's say you have a product for dogs. If you're paying for traffic to come look at your dog product, and your customers or audience doesn't want that, you want to at least see if there's something else they're interested in. And if the only other thing you have in your store is sinks, it's unlikely that they may be interested in sinks, and you're kind of losing that budget that you were investing for them to come. So usually if people start general stores, the best general stores I've seen have still followed some sort of theme. Like for example, kitchen gadgets. So they're different for different things, or tech products or something like that. So I would still try to group products together if you're starting a general store.
Yeah, and I think as a from a customer's perspective, if I go to a store and they're selling completely different products, like a whole different category, I don't know if I'm going to necessarily trust it, because I want to go to a store that specializes in said product that I want to purchase, that knows said product really well. And if they're selling something completely different, I'm like, oh, I don't know if this store is an expert in this product, and I want to buy from a store that is an expert.
Absolutely. And just, I'll just be honest. Sometimes general stores, they can be a little sus. So, think about your own shopping habits. When I'm looking for, a pet product, I will be honest, it will make me suspicious if I see them selling a sink. And I know that it doesn't make sense, but for some reason that may be enough for me to be like, you know what, let me get my, pet product somewhere else. And that's how people are. You're selling to people. So try to think of your own shopping habits. If you seem suspicious of something or something makes you feel weird as a customer, make sure that you're not doing that on your store, because that might make your customers feel weird or suspicious. And sometimes, that's all it is. There was this really, there are these drop shippers. Just a quick interlude. We had these drop shippers who now are 7 8 figure drop shippers, and for the longest time they had a problem getting conversions. They were like, what is going on? Something is not working. And in an interview we did with them, Andreas and Alexander, it's on our channel but it's from a while ago, they realized that in one of their product descriptions there was a typo. They changed the typo and all of a sudden sales were rolling in, because if you see a typo, your customers just feels like a little suspicious, and then they may not be as inclined to buy. So it really is, about the little things sometimes and the details. So don't overlook those.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the small little details, like you said, a spelling mistake can throw people off completely. So, and
Yeah.
that's again, I mean, now we can move into store management. And I think that was one of your points, Magda, is just product descriptions and editing all that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think that falls in perfectly to that example.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to store management, this is another area where it's going to be really great for you to start small, because, I will be honest, when you start Shopify and when you start drop shipping, it does seem really easy, and it is easy to import products. But what people always forget to realize is like it actually takes so much work when it comes to like building out your store, building out your product page. And I will tell you, let me know in the chat if this is something that any of you also hate. But for me, the most annoying part of making a new store is writing product descriptions. It's so soul draining. It's just so annoying. Like I just find it so difficult to write product descriptions that are, I don't know, like really great. I find it really difficult, and I feel like a lot of people do too, from everything I've read in the comments and a lot of feedback I've gotten over the years. And here's the thing, if you're going to start by selling 500 products, we've seen that. I'm just letting you all know, we've seen people who refuse to open their store unless they have 500 products. It is just so much extra work for you. And you know what? There's already a lot of work on the road ahead. Don't make it harder for yourself. Do
Yeah.
not make it harder for yourself.
Not to mention, like all these little aspects of building trust along with the product description is things like adding size charts if you're selling clothing. So grabbing all these size charts for each item, putting them in the description so they look nice and it's properly aligned with that item. If you have 500 products, that's literally going to take you forever to do. Along with size charts is product reviews. So one thing that really I find helps build and establish trust is having product reviews, especially reviews with images. And last week, I think it was, I had shared there are product review apps that you can actually pull in AliExpress reviews into your description. So if you only have a few products, it's going to be way easier to build out these amazing product pages that are going to establish trust with your customers versus having product descriptions and product pages which are like, not bad, they're so, but they're still not engaging. And yeah, like we said, those little things can establish that trust and make that sales. If you have 500 products, it's going to be so hard and take you so much time to do that.
Yeah, and it seems easy. Like I have a store with like that sells accessories, and so there's multiple different products. There's still less than 10. But even, for example, importing product reviews, you have to go through, filter all the ones that are not in English. Then you have to choose which ones you want to add. Then you have to find pictures for them. It actually takes so much work. High quality images to build. That is exactly a good point. It actually takes so much time, and beyond even the actual time, like let's say if I looked at a watch on my phone or something to count it, it's just annoying. And you want this entire process, it's already challenging. Don't make it any more challenging for yourself. Make it easy. There's going to be frustrations along the way anyways, so don't add them in here.
Yeah. And you want to make it fun. Like it can be fun if you have to write a couple product
Mhm.
descriptions, but once you get to like the 20th description, you're like, okay, I'm done. I don't I don't want to think about how to write this. And even as we talked about in week one with buyer needs, and establishing the why, like we had that fun game where we played the so what. So you would ask like, like, I want this product because of this reason. And then you just keep saying, so what, like 4 or 5 times until you really establish what that need is to help you write that description. Imagine doing that for 500 products. That would take you forever. And you're not going to want to do that. And you're going to get frustrated and just probably quit. I would if I had to do that for 500 products. So start small. It allows you to really build out a really great site, and not get frustrated along the way as much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just it seems if any of you have gotten started or have already built a store, there's so many little things, and I think that's usually, to be honest, one thing that gets the most drop shippers is it's all the little things that add up, and at some point you get so overwhelmed and you're like, I cannot even look at this. This is so overwhelming. There's so many little things I have to do. And so, as long as you know that ahead of time, that's okay, because you can address that and you can be prepared to solve that challenge for yourself. But you don't want to make it harder. You don't want to make it harder. So definitely, keep it simple.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and Riley said, I like to actually write so what in my product descriptions for features, benefits. Yeah, I like that. You're like literally addressing, okay, as a customer, like what you're thinking in your head again is the so what. So that's awesome. I love that. And another area to think about when it comes to store management is actually fulfilling orders as well. So think about if you have a product which is out of inventory, it's so much easier to be like, okay, cool, I have these 3 products. This one's out of stock. I'm going to override it with a new supplier who is stocking that. If you have a bunch of items, it makes it so much harder just to keep track of everything. So while you're getting the flow of everything, and if you do get this huge influx of sales, but then you have such a large variety of products and trying to manage that, just fulfilling orders in general can be a lot easier when you have a few products.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times, if you have multiple products in your store, they're most likely going to be from different suppliers. And finding a supplier that you like to work with, that's hard enough. So if you have someone you like to work with, keep it easy. Don't add more people into the mix. That just makes it more difficult. So I definitely think that's a good point. And also, with payment gateways, it's important to note that they will pay you out after a few days. But if you have products that vary in budget, I mean, in cost and in price, you want to note that beforehand so that you can properly learn how to budget, and that you can be aware of what you might be, potentially paying, and what you need to pay the suppliers.
Yeah, that's a good point, because payments are kept separate in the sense that like you'd mentioned, your customer pays you, but then you have to pay the supplier on AliExpress. So it's always important to have that little bit of a budget while you're waiting for your payouts from your customers to be able to order right away from your suppliers. So yeah, just having a good idea of what your products cost and having a little bit of budget to help with that. Again, it just makes it way easier. And like Magda said too about suppliers, an important thing to note is, like she said, suppliers are all very different. So if you find a supplier you really like working with that ships right away, that they actually deliver right on time, and they're really responsive if you have questions. If you just have a few products, it makes it so much easier to know that you're likely going to have a good experience working with that supplier, rather than working with a supplier that's going to cause you headaches along the way. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So the next one I was going to mention is suppliers sometimes tend to change their price frequently, whether if it's even by like a few cents or not. If a supplier does decide to change the product price, it can be so much easier to keep track of that. Now, we do have an auto update section, which will auto update your prices if you choose based on your global pricing rules, which is like a multiplier times the supplier price. But if you do set your prices manually and you want to decide what the cost is for your customer, it's so much easier to keep track of that and adjust it, and stay on top of what those supplier price changes are if you just have a few items.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know if we have any more under store management. Is there anything else you can think of for store management before we hop on to the next one?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. For me, the biggest thing is just for me, the biggest thing is just the little things in the admin, which is, like, to be honest, not usually the fun parts of building a store.
Yeah.
And you want to keep the not fun parts to as easy breezy as possible for yourself. And I think when it comes to a lot of bigger drop shippers, they really just fly through all the admin stuff because they want to test as many products and test their ads and creatives first. So you want to get to that point. You don't want to, you don't want to give up before that point where you get to actual marketing and things like that. So just make it easy for yourself.
Totally. And I think that blends really nicely into the last section, which is just, again, other little tips and tricks or reasons why you might want to start small. I personally love like creating and branding. Like you said, it's the fun part of it. Like it can be really the fun part of creating ads, creating content. And if you start small, it really allows you to brand out and build all that fun creative bits. So whether it is you want to order in those 3 products, take your own product photography or videography and just build that content, it allows you to actually order those, say, 3 items, 5 items, whatever it would be, and do that. Versus if you have 100 or 500 products, you're not going to order all those products. You're not going to test the quality of all of those and build unique content for all of that. So that's like my personal opinion. I just love that fun part of designing and creating. So I couldn't imagine having 500 products and feeling overwhelmed and not being able to put my full creative aspects into each of those products.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I wanted to add is just, over the time that I've been working with the video team and, working with Oberlo, a lot of the interviews that we've done on our channel with really successful drop shippers, and even all the success stories on the blog post, I can tell you right now that most of them start with very few products. Usually they start with less than 5. And the reason is because the most important part of starting your business or kind of getting your business off the ground is testing, marketing, advertising, and being agile. So you can't really be agile if you have 500 products. But if you have just a few products to work with, it's a lot easier. If, let's say, you have a few products and you need to change the angle, or you need to change the audience testing, or you need to change the product descriptions, and it can really make a big difference, depending on what ages you find that actually resonate the best with your products and things like that. So I definitely, would suggest reading some of the success stories on the Oberlo blog or checking out some of the interviews on our channel. But most of the pros, excuse me, start with very few products. And once that works and you're off the ground and you're making bills, you can add 500. You go for it. You live your best life afterward. But we want to help get you to first sale as fast as possible, first 10 sales as fast as possible. Once you get to the first 100, you're ready to fly. You're ready to kind of leave the nest, and then you can make your, executive decisions about how many products to add. But I definitely would suggest starting with fewer to begin with.
Yeah. And like you mentioned too, some of those pros just stick with selling 5. So it's not to say
Yep.
like starting small is only for small business. Starting
Yep.
small can continue and grow and build an amazing audience. And maybe it's just a personal perspective of like working for Shopify and Oberlo for, 5 years. Is that anytime I see a general store with so many products, I mean, I know it's a drop shipping store, but I
Yep.
feel like even from the customer's perspective, they might feel like, this shop doesn't specialize, like I said, in said items. So it can be really interesting to see a shop that sells a few items that's really well branded and it's like super well disguised as like you'd have no idea it's a drop shipping store. And I've seen some really like amazingly
Mhm.
branded sites, like clothing sites, for example, that I'm like, oh my gosh, I would have never ever guessed that this is drop shipping.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And Shirley, I just want to answer your question
oh
quickly.
yeah.
I definitely think that, like Carissa was saying earlier, if you have less products, it's easier to take more of your own photos for all of them. And you definitely should take your own photos if that's possible. I know that sometimes you just want to get started and it's tough, but order a test product to yourself and then keep yourself busy with all the admin stuff, all the research, the audience research, making, planning out your creatives. There's a lot of work to do. So, usually when I suggest people to take their own photos, they don't want to wait for the product to arrive. But at the same time, most of them don't even have their store set up. So, it's definitely a good idea to order the product and then get busy. There's so much other work to be doing, and then take your own photos. And I think that it will make a huge difference because a lot of times the Facebook algorithm, if you're advertising on Facebook, it will detect that photo from AliExpress. It doesn't know it's from AliExpress, but it will detect that a lot of other ads advertisements are using the exact same photo. So it's not necessarily unique. So if you can have a unique photo, so one that you've taken yourself, literally with your smartphone, doesn't even need to be more than that, it can actually perform way better for you.
Yeah, totally. And even doing things like, I mean, sometimes I'll do a reverse Google, like image search on Google. And if I see like, 10 different sites selling the same thing, like customers can sometimes be sneaky like that. So if you have your
Right.
own photos, literally nobody else is going to be using it except for you. And even last week, we talked a little bit about ways you could take your own photos if you're not as creative. Like, for example, you can order a light box on AliExpress. They're not that expensive and it can allow you to take really nice photos with a white background. Or if you want to reach out to maybe an Instagram account that takes really beautiful photos and see if they can take some photos for you and you send them a free product, like there's a lot of ways you can explore getting that photography. So yeah, I definitely recommend taking your own photos and thinking about the type of photo you take too. So you could use AliExpress for like the basic, like here's the actual product with a white background, like just the product itself. But then maybe if it's clothing, you take lifestyle photography, which kind of shows the product in action. Or if it's a useful like tool, you want to show a video of it, like using the product. So just think about getting
Absolutely.
creative that way too. And I know we're already at 11:30. We always go way over time. But let's hop into the last sections, Magda, just before we go. So the next section is the hot tip section. So whether it's a marketing tip or whatever it might be that we've recently ran across, mine is Google Trends. So if any of you haven't used Google Trends yet, it's just trends.google.com. You can type in keywords, phrases, products, whatever it might be, and see if a certain region is actually searching for that. So it can be really useful to know, okay, do I want to create ads and target said region? I can see if people are actually even looking for that product in said region, right? So Google Trends is a pretty useful tool.
Yeah, and for me, I think my hot tip would be just that, when it comes to marketing for whatever size store you have, try to really look at your audience and find out where there might be as an audience. Like for example, just because most dropshippers use Facebook ads doesn't mean Facebook ads is the best for your business.
Mhm.
If you have a specific audience that's a little bit younger, then you might actually prefer using, TikTok or Instagram. Or if you, for example, have an audience that's mostly women, it might be way better for you to actually just go and use Pinterest. So just because most dropshippers use Facebook ads does not mean that that's the best for your business. And it's also the most expensive. So, I would not suggest it until you're ready to drop some bills or you have some experience with it. And, do not underestimate the power of these other platforms, because not only are they really powerful, but they can also be way cheaper. So yes, Opal, even TikTok, which a lot of people are making tons of money there for free, because they don't have to pay for ads and are using affiliates and things like that. But that's for another episode.
Yeah, and not to mention, I think Pinterest is giving away in some regions like a free 100 and something credit through Shopify. So check that out because sometimes there are free credits for ads you can use. But I think that's a great point, and to think about your product and what it would fit best. Like you said, if it's a younger audience, maybe TikTok, or if it's like home decor and kind of more aesthetic products, then Pinterest. So again, having smaller products, like product items added to your store, allow you to experiment with that a little bit more. Yeah, so cool. I love that. And also, Elnor, that's so sweet of you. You could be here all day. Well, we're going to be here every week. So join us every week. That's really nice. Okay, so toolbox section. So the very last section, which is maybe a podcast or a book or whatever it might be we've been loving. So mine is a podcast that I've personally been loving. It's called To Be Magnetic. Now, I will preface this by saying it might be a little too woo-woo for some of you, maybe a little too spiritual. I don't know, but I think it has some amazing content and amazing tools to help you get in the right mindset to starting your business or doing whatever it is you want with your life. I think there's a lot of stuff going around right now about the law of attraction and creating this dream life. And especially with drop shipping, I find it's very relevant in terms of people being like, start $1 million company and just like believe you can do it. And this podcast really helped me really narrow down like my own fears and my own worries and my own limitations that I've had that have allowed me to then be more successful in whatever it is. So if any of you are finding you're struggling with feeling like you can do this or not do it, it's something I've been loving. So again, it might be not for everybody, but I just love it so much that I had to share that.
That's a great tip. And I think one thing everyone from just the last few years that I've learned is usually, to be honest, ultimately the thing that will make you successful is a mindset. You know, because there will be challenges every step of the way, problems every step of the way. If you think your problems are before you make your first sale, that's not true. There's going to be problems when you try to scale. There's going to be problems, other problems that come up, and it's all about mindset. So to be honest, if you can get your mindset right, it's going to help you. It's going to be the foundation you need to succeed. So that's a really good tip. And for my toolbox drop that I will be dropping with you all today, it's Overload Product Watch. Now, I know you all probably have more than enough of winning product videos, etc. But for Overload Product Watch on the Overload blog, they don't only just post a winning product, but they post the actual Google trend so you can see it's trending. And then they also post the basic Facebook ad setup that you would put into Facebook Business Manager to start creating the ads. So it's doing a lot of the work already for you. So it's not just a winning product, like it actually takes you step by step through multiple processes. So yeah, you can also get it sent to your email, but I just put the link in because I just feel like it's really cool to read and see what products are trending.
Yeah, I love that. That's so helpful, especially for those people who are trying to get started and figure out what they want to sell and how to actually go about creating those ads if it's something new. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that. Okay, cool. Well, that's the end of our show. Thank you again, everyone, so much for joining us. And thank you, Magda, for being here. I really appreciate it. Again, so many helpful tips for Magda. Hopefully, we'll have her again on the show in the future, though I know she's a busy gal. But let us know in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like, what we could do better, or any topics maybe you want us to cover in future episodes. And make sure to add Real Talks to your calendar for next week. So next week, we're actually going to be chatting about how to win back a customer, which I think applies to any shop. So it's going to be both steps on how to be proactive and avoid having customer complaints. But if you get to the point where you get a complaint or an issue, how to actually be retroactive about that and handle customers so that you can have them as repeat customers. So that's next week. And next week actually will be our last talk before the new year. So please do join us. Once we come back in January, we're actually going to be starting on Mondays. So Monday, January 4th will be the one we start in the new year. But again, like I said, we'll be here next Wednesday. So thank you again, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. It was so nice to join you and be part of this today, and hopefully see you all soon.